Good afternoon. I'm Malcolm Moore. My areas of interest are medical oncology and new drug development. And I'm going to talk to you today about three things. The first is clinical trials and how those are important in developing new drugs for cancer. I'm going to talk to you about how we're bridging a gap between the laboratory and the clinic and why that's important for designing new clinical trials. And I'm going to talk to you about personalized medicine and what that actually means as we develop new therapies for cancer. Now, if we look here, this cartoon shows several things. First of all, it shows the research lab and the clinic. And for many years, there's been a big divide between what goes on in research laboratories and what happens in the clinic. And you would often hear that it's easy to cure cancer in mice, not so easy in people. And as time has gone on, and we've had some wonderful discoveries in the laboratory, we've realized that we have to bring those discoveries over to the clinic. Meanwhile, in the clinic, as we struggle with the complexities of human cancer, we need to take those cases, if you like, back to the lab, understand more about why some patients benefit from therapies and some patients don't, and bridge this gap. And so this gap is getting smaller. It's getting smaller because of more discoveries, and it's also getting smaller because of people working together. And the other part of this cartoon, which shows people holding hands across the gap, points out one of the principles of Princess Margaret Hospital, where we believe that by working together, we can achieve more than working separately. Now, how do we measure success? My main area of interest is in clinical trials to find new therapies for cancer. Well, how do we know that we're a successful organization? Well, more than 20% of our patients go on clinical trials. That's the highest rate of entry of clinical trials of any place in Canada, so we think that's important. Also, people like to work with us. We're the only Canadian center who's approved by the US government to develop new cancer drugs, and we've had that contract renewed 3 times. The pharmaceutical industry, which also develops a lot of drugs, likes to work with us, and we've got several preferential contracts to do that. Why is that important to our patients? It's important to our patients because that gives them access to the most interesting new therapies that we can bring before they become more generally available. So are we successful in the realm of clinical trials and developing new drugs for cancer? Yes, we are. There's also many new drugs that have been developed for cancer that are now widely used across North America and the world, where the primary study to do that was done at Princess Margaret Hospital in Toronto. Now, what does this mean going forward? Well, we have always known, just like everyone is different, they have different preferences, they wear different clothes, that when you see a group of patients with cancer, they behave in different ways. And you may see 100 patients with lung cancer, different things happen. Some respond to treatment, some don't. And what we're starting to discover and what the basis of personalized medicine is that diseases like lung cancer and colon cancer are not one disease. They're many different diseases. And this cartoon here kind of demonstrates that, where we see a group of individuals, most of them are gray, but you see some are a different color. And we're starting to discover what these different colors mean when we deal with cancers. So there are some specific genetic features of the different types of lung or colon cancer. And what's most important is that when we understand that, we can find specific treatments for those cancers that really don't apply to the rest of the patients who have lung cancer. So that's kind of the basis of personalized medicine. It also affects how we do clinical trials. In the past, the way we would develop new drugs for cancer is we would take a drug, we would treat a group of patients, and basically if more than 20% of the patients benefited, we would say, that's probably a good drug, we should develop it further. If only 10% of the patients benefited from the drug, we would say that's probably not a good drug, we won't take it further. But if you think about it more, if you're that one patient out of 10 who benefits from a drug, it's a very good drug for you. So what we've started to say is, why did that one person benefit and the other 9 did not? And once we start to understand that and understand that there are certain diseases with unique genetic features, we start to find treatments for those unique situations that are different than the way we would treat other patients with colon cancer or lung cancer. And there are now many examples in particularly lung cancer where you have these genetic abnormalities that only occur in 3 or 5% of the patients. But if you can identify that ahead of time, there's a very useful and very simple treatment to take that works almost 100% of the time. So that, in a sense, is what personalized medicine is about, is finding the right treatment for the right patient. Now, today in 2012, the situation is much like this cartoon here. Most cancers are gray, and then we've identified a few different colors of unique genetic features. What we think in the future is that it will look like this. Each case will be different. In each case, we will identify the unique genetic features of that tumor and person and personalize or find the right treatment for that situation. Are we there yet? No, we're not. But the clues we're getting from lung cancer and breast cancer, where we have found some of these genetic differences, give us hope that with appropriate research, we can get to a stage where every person will have a specific treatment that will be highly effective for them. And how are we going to do that at Princess Margaret? We're going to do that by putting large groups of researchers, pathologists, and clinicians together to develop the treatments of the future that will be more effective than they are today. Thank you.